Righty, welcome and thank you for attending the State Board of Nursing's stakeholder meeting via webinar today. The date is February 16th, 2024, and the time is 1:30 p.m. Before we begin, we would like to introduce the staff members from the Division of Professions and Occupations that are present. My name is Darcy Magnuson, and I'm a regulatory analyst with the division. Also attending is Roberta Hills, Program Director of the Board of Nursing. As many of you are aware, we have transitioned to a platform that is 100% virtual, and we appreciate your flexibility. We would also like to reiterate the importance of your comments today. DORA makes decisions every day that may affect your life and your business, so your input is vital in the rulemaking process. Throughout this process, our goal is to create regulations that clarify and explain legislation, ensure minimum competency to enter and continue to practice, and provide only what is absolutely necessary for consumer protection without creating unnecessary barriers to the marketplace. Your input will be part of the information that goes to the board as it considers adopting revisions to the rules. More specifically, we will be asking for feedback today regarding proposed revisions to Rule 1.15, titled Rules and Regulations for Prescriptive Authority for Advanced Practice Registered Nurses. And the purpose of these proposed changes is to bring clarity to the APN RXNs on the mentorship requirements. And before we go into the process, so if you're here, you've likely received our information, but as a reminder, all of our information about rulemaking is housed on the board's website under the Public Notices tab. So that's where you can find the current version of the draft rules, as well as all of the written stakeholder comments that we have received, the recording from the meeting that we had in January. And those links will continue to be updated as we go through this rulemaking process. So just wanted to let everyone know that that's a good resource to continue to check, because as we receive additional comments or if any additional changes are made to the draft rules, they will be posted on the board's website under the Public Notices tab. So as for today, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the board's website under the Public Notices tab by the close of business on Tuesday, since Monday is a holiday. As the stakeholder meeting is held solely by webinar, please raise your hand using the hand icon if you would like to speak, and we will unmute your line so you'll be heard by everyone, or you can type your comment in the question section and we will read it aloud. Before we start taking comments, we ask that anyone providing comments please state your name and the name of the organization that you represent, if any. Feel free to provide either general comments on the proposed rule changes or specific comments on the proposed language. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 to 5 minutes and try not to repeat something that was already said. You're welcome to state if you're in agreement with someone else, and we will note that. If you are using the audio through your computer, please remember to put any phones on vibrate or turn them off. And whether you are using computer or phone audio, please try to keep background noises to a minimum when speaking. So that takes us to the stakeholder feedback portion of the stakeholder meeting today. So if you'd like to provide any feedback regarding the proposed revisions to Rule 1.15, you can raise your hand and we will unmute your line. Amy Diamond, you are unmuted. We should be able to hear you when you unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Amy. I'm a nurse practitioner in private practice, integrative mountain psychiatry. So I have three main concerns, I guess, and they're fairly granular because I've read a lot of the comments, and a lot of folks have brought up kind of the overall general problems. But the three things that I'm most concerned about, first of all, is the standardization of the process as far as what I mean, like, for instance, I see at least two forms, probably standardized. One, the application, two, whatever is going to be would be collecting the information to attest to the hours, the mentored hours. So I'm wondering, well, who will arrive, would the board be and arriving at these criteria? So and then what process would be in place so as not to duplicate or confound standards already achieved by the national certifying bodies. And so, in other words, by what guideline that has not already been met would the competencies or expectations be assured to the board? And then I'm also concerned if the board is not going to arrive at it, what would it be? Would there be a committee that would be put together, made up of people most representative, seasoned RXMPs, physicians, best positioned to determine the criteria that is felt or perceived by the board to be missing to fix this rule? And then the second thing is cost. I know that the AANP published report 39,000 new grads in the US in 21-22. So whatever hundreds at least of Colorado new grads. I'm just wondering, that where is that cost going to come from? Is it going to, taxpayer, new provider? And then the third thing is, and this is where it kind of interestingly or not, my stance on this rule change intersects with my response to, any certain medical organizations' statements about NP's, professional competency, such as the, AMA scope creep and all that. So, and in both cases, it seems like any claims or assumptions have to be backed up with patient care outcomes to justify interfering in such a drastic way with the workforce's delivery of care, as well as the care of the workforce itself. And so it seems there's no clinical or ethical basis otherwise, whether that's, political or interest of fixing chunky regulation or, increasing mentorship. So to make sure that we are keeping the impact on patient access to care at the forefront. And so under that, I'm kind of wondering, if there has been a pattern of medication errors that the board by its nature is uniquely privy to, is there a way to perhaps study and then target those through rule changes? And then if it is prompted by, a goal to increase mentorship, maybe is it something that can be incentivized versus mandated? And then if it's neither of those things, is there any way that the board could maybe give some insight as to what is prompting the need for this change at this time? And that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Karen Zink, I saw you raised your hand and then there we are. Okay. Karen Zink, you are unmuted on our end. Karen Zink, once you unmute, we should be able to hear you.
Technologically challenged. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to participate in this hearing. My name is Karen Zink. I've been a licensed registered nurse in the state of Colorado for 53 years now. I'm still practicing. I received my first prescriptive authority number from the Colorado Department of Regulatory Agencies in 1997. And in 2009, I was asked by Governor Ritter to serve on the governor's Blue Ribbon Task Force to mediate prescriptive authority for advanced practice nurses, along with 4 other nurses and 5 physicians and mediator Chris Adams. I will tell you that from that mediation, there was never an intent to be this granular about the requirements. For the family nurse practitioner, it's almost impossible to achieve those requirements. I question the necessity for even having the mentorship hours at all. I think in other states where the hours aren't required, there aren't prescribing problems. And I agree with Amy Diamond, if the Colorado State Board of Nursing is seeing a lot of problems, I think we need to have those revealed to us so that we understand what kind of problems there are. I've also been in private practice since 1989. I had a collaborating physician until 2010 when we achieved full practice authority. And I can tell you, if one of the missions is to prevent barriers to the marketplace, this is an obstruction to the marketplace. I've taken a few new graduates through the mentorship process. The first time I did it, we had the 1,800 plus 1,800 hours, and that cost me $36,000 as a business owner because she couldn't see patients and couldn't get credentialed with insurance companies until she had all of those requirements met for some companies. She needed a DEA number and we couldn't get it without the mentorship. So I'm wanting to say that I think this obstructs access to care, and I don't understand why we persist in having the hours at all, but to be so granular with the hours for the family nurse practitioner, I think is unreasonable. And the intent of the Blue Ribbon Task Force was to attest that the individual had completed the hours. There was no intent about specificity, simply the number of hours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Roberta, if I'm not mistaken, the 750 hours, that's a statutory requirement. Is that?
That is correct.
Okay. I don't know if that helps. I know that you had other comments too, Ms. Zink, but. Alrighty. I am going to move on to, and I apologize if I mispronounced your last name, Rose Wachira. You are unmuted. Rose Wachira. We should be able to hear you if you unmute on your end. There we go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rose. Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Rose, and I've been a nurse for the longest of about 20 years, but I became a nurse practitioner in 2020 during the COVID time. I got my provisional prescriptive authority, and I renewed again back in 2022. I was supposed to renew my prescriptive authority in 2024 in September. I don't know, I think I missed either the letter according to what I see or what I'm told. I just went to do my PDMP search on a few patients because I now moved to doing addiction medicine, and it says it's deactivated. So when I called Dora, I was told, no, we changed the rule that the day you got your first license becomes the anniversary. So the months from where I am supposed to be 8 months prior to renewing, I just find that I cannot do that. I cannot work without this because I'm doing addiction medicine. So this morning I've been trying, I've called about 4 or 5 times. I have seen an email that came to say that I have to apply again, and I have to apply like a provisional license again. I had already done the hours. I'm doing it as if I came from school. I'm sitting in my house because I couldn't go to work. I have a lot of PDMPs to do. So I am confused. I don't know why we have to redo it, like we are starting all over again. We have already had the experience. Everybody has seen it's working for us. So I feel still like that we don't need those many hours, and we shouldn't redo it as a new one. I'm considered like I don't have one prescriptive authority. So I'm now like a new student who is waiting to get into new one, applying afresh. So I think that one needs to be looked into. I've wasted a lot of time today. I've wasted a lot of patients' time. It's resources wasted. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I show Bridget Yaboa. Bridget Yaboa, you are unmuted on our end.
Okay, I second also what everyone has said too. I was a nurse practitioner in Massachusetts, first license. I practiced and I prescribed, and then I moved to Colorado, and I had to also collect the provision hours, which was very confusing to me because it wasn't like I just got out of nursing school. I had been practicing for 2 years. So, I mean, I can understand if you're requiring it for new MP students, but people who are transferring licenses and already have experience, I don't know if this is needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next raised hand is Maya Green. Maya Green, you are unmuted on our end. Maya Green, it looks like you unmuted now. Okay, you're unmuted, so if you're talking, we cannot hear you, but you're unmuted on both ends. Maya Green, the other option, if you're having some audio issues, which I don't know, you can also type in your comments into the Q&A function of the Zoom webinar, and I will read them out loud for everyone. I'm going to leave you unmuted on our end in case you are able to resolve it on your end. While we wait, we don't have any more raised hands. So if anyone else would like to provide feedback, you can raise your hand and we will unmute your line, or you can use the Q&A and we will read your comments out loud for the recording. Colleen Casper, you are unmuted on our end.
Thank you very much for another opportunity to review these rules. I am Colleen Casper, the Executive Director of the Colorado Nurses Association, whom I represent today. We have submitted some fairly lengthy comments for the board's deliberation, but I just want to reiterate that what really, I mean, I don't know if this is my 4th or 5th stakeholder meeting on this topic, but what has started with individual applicant problem is now becoming an even more important employer problem. And if we don't get a resolution on this soon, we stand to risk loss of available APRN applicants to provide care in Colorado, and probably even impact the schools of advanced practice nursing programs. So I think I just want to reinforce the importance of resolving this sooner rather than later with the least amount of barriers, which is the trend nationally and has been the trend statewide until the past 12 to 16 months. And I really encourage the board to look at how they're impacting practice. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Maya Green, Hello, my name is Maya. I did just want to say that I'm a newly licensed FNP. I just passed boards on Monday, and I'm worried about if my hours will count towards RX authority, as I have accepted a job who serves only adults. How many pediatric hours will I need? If you have specific questions, you're welcome to reach out to the nursing board, and they will be able to help you with those specific questions. Melissa Ponce, I am an FNP and I'm wondering about the prescriptive authority rules. I'm wondering if there's any thought in dropping the additional hours required for full prescriptive authority. This requirement is taking providers out of healthcare to fulfill requirements that have already been completed through nurse practitioner school. Not only are providers being taken out of their jobs so that they may fulfill these additional hours, they are losing money as they are not able to be paid during these hours and are missing work as a result. As mentioned above, these hours have been fulfilled during nurse practitioner school, and we have also proven ourselves to able to competently care for and prescribe populations across the lifespan through passing our boards and passing an accredited nurse practitioner program. The hours selected for each individual has seemed rather arbitrary and varies greatly across all individuals. For example, in my place of work, I found that my coworkers have quite varied across the board. And Maya Green said, okay, thank you. And I agree with the person who just made a comment. Okay, while we wait to see if anyone else wants to provide feedback today, I'll go through the dates again, or the date again. So the next scheduled date is the rulemaking hearing, which is scheduled at the board's next full board meeting, which is on April 24th of this year. So we will send out notice in advance of that hearing to stakeholders. And we will also post it on the board's website, like I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. So that's a good place to continue to check. And we will continue to accept written comments up until the date of that rulemaking hearing. And like I mentioned, I'll go through that at the end of the meeting too. So we'll wait a couple more minutes to see if anyone else would like to provide feedback today. Karen Zink, is the April 24th meeting only virtual? Yes, as of right now, the meeting is going to be a virtual rulemaking hearing and meeting. But that is a good question. At the rulemaking hearing, I should add that stakeholders are invited to testify before the board's deliberation regarding whether to adopt any proposed revisions to Rule 1.15. While you can testify at the hearing, it is helpful to submit comments in advance, so that way other stakeholders can see those comments and the board can review those in advance of the rulemaking hearing. But yes, you can address the board with any final testimony before the board deliberates on April 24th. Colleen Casper, are you sure you will allow stakeholder testimony on April 24th board meeting? We have not been allowed to do that in the recent past. So there are a couple different rulemaking hearings. Stakeholder testimony is required by statute for the board to allow stakeholder testimony when the board discusses the proposed revisions and no decisions are being made and it's just part of the board's full board meeting. We don't open it to stakeholder testimony at that time, but yes, at the rulemaking hearing, stakeholders are invited to testify before the board begins its deliberations. Once the board closes the hearing portion of the rulemaking hearing and enters into its deliberations, then members of the public are not permitted to address the board. But at all rulemaking hearings, the standard process is the board will introduce the proposed rulemaking, call for stakeholder testimony, enter into its deliberations, and then decide whether to adopt the proposed revisions or make any changes, which is followed by a motion. Anne Margaret Asrig, sorry for the mispronunciation. How seriously does the Board of Nursing take the concerns mentioned, and would they make changes based on mentioned concerns? I can tell you the board's taking any changes very seriously. This has been a conversation that the board has been having, like Ms. Casper mentioned, for well over a year. So they do review the stakeholder comments. They did discuss at their January 24th meeting the stakeholder comments that had been received to date, and made notes on the side of the document that you're seeing on the screen based on the stakeholder comments received. So they do review those comments. They do have access to this recording, and they will listen to the testimony that's received on the day of the hearing as well. Rose Wachira, you are unmuted. We should be able to hear you once you unmute.
Yeah, I think I need to ask you this question because I had already done my 750. I'm just wondering, do I still have to do another 750, having been practicing since graduation? Because I'm being taken as a new one. I just wanted to know this because I know it's a task.
My recommendation, since it sounds like it's an individual question related to your specific application, would be to contact the Board of Nursing directly. I know you said you have been trying this morning, but I think that Roberta would be more than willing to help you out. Roberta Hill is the program director, to answer any specific questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you.
Julie Unruh, as a provider that originally certified as FNP in 2005. I have specialized in adult care, specifically the surgical specialty, to include assisting in surgery and writing orders in the hospital. The pediatric requirement for me does not make any sense. I've tried for years to work in urgent care, retail health prior to these proposals. This will have a huge negative impact for me to continue to practice. If I don't feel comfortable prescribing a medication, I don't. I believe these are more important for new graduates. However, for a provider that has been practicing for close to 20 years, this change does not make sense. Rose Waichira, I agree with that. Maya Green, it has been difficult to find a job as a new grad NP in a family practice without experience. Therefore, I have explored other avenues and have accepted a job in another specialty. If we are still required to complete the 750 hour mentorship, this will certainly have a negative impact on me. The pause is because we don't have any more raised hands and we don't have any more comments in the Q&A, but I will hold here to see if anyone else would like to provide feedback. We want to make sure we give you a chance, but we don't want to waste people's time either if we have received all of the feedback. Karen Zink, again, thank you for this opportunity. And to echo that, thank you for being here and engaging in this conversation. I know this has been lengthy, and appreciate people participating in the conversation. Abigail McNulty. I am an FNP working in oncology, but do take care of patients across the lifespan. I completed the initial 750 hours to apply for RXN and was assigned additional hours in pediatrics and women's health. As others have said, this has been quite arbitrary, and many FNPs in my practice are being assigned different amounts of hours in peds, women's health. Most NP grads have no trouble getting the 750 hours of mentorship. The issue is being too prescriptive about needing a extra peds or women's health hours. Jan Totten, is this rule change saying that regardless of how long you have been an RXN, you must reapply and obtain another 750 hours of mentorship? Roberta, I'll let you answer that, but my understanding is no.
If you have completed the 750 hours and submitted the full prescriptive authority application and you have received full prescriptive authority, then the answer is no, you wouldn't have to do more. If you have not done that piece and the time is up, you probably do have to do more.
Anonymous attendee, are these 750 hours to be obtained after graduation upon entering into practice, or are they able to be obtained during clinical hours during an NP program?
After you are, it's after you have received your certification and you're registered as an advanced practice nurse, and then you apply for the prescriptive authority. So this is all after graduation. And then you have the 750 hours of mentorship that starts.
Anonymous attendee, if the board adopts any new rule, how does the board propose working with those APRNs who are already in the process of obtaining 750 mentorship hours under the current rule? Roberta, I don't know if you know the answer to that question.
Well, the answer would be, it's not clear to me what's going to be adopted. So if, for example, what's being proposed today is adopted, the change occurs with the when the new applicant receives feedback on the mentorship. So someone who's already in the process, you're welcome to send, a communication back to the board. That's either to me or to our nursing board email box. And if you would like to have your situation reconsidered, we do that. We'll put it on. You'll have to give us the details of what you're asking to have reconsidered. And the best way to do that is make it in reference to whatever the rules are that have been adopted. So if you see that that something changed and you want to make sure you're allowed to change what your pathway is, then you would ask us to relook at that.
Okay, I'm not seeing any more raised hands. We did just get a written comment. Thank you for holding this meeting to hear, Melinda Kimmel. Thank you for holding this meeting to hear our feedback. As leader among APRNs in our state, I have significant concerns with how this will impact our profession in the state of Colorado. One concern that I've heard repeatedly is it causing NPs to look for employment in other states that are more affordable to live in and have more autonomy. Anonymous attendee, can you give the April date again for the next meeting? Yes, I will go through that at the end of the meeting, but the rulemaking hearing is tentatively scheduled for April 24th of this year at the Board of Nursing's next full board meeting. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up and keep an eye out just in case anyone has any final comments. Thank you again for participating in today's meeting. As part of the collaborative process, like I mentioned, all comments and program recommendations will be provided to the board for review before the board's rulemaking hearing, which is scheduled for April 24th of this year. All rulemaking information can be found on the board's website under the Public Notices tab, and written comments may be sent to Dora_DPO_rulemaking@state.co.us. Those comments are posted on the board's website. That does conclude our stakeholder meeting for today, and we thank you for your participation.